Methods and recipes for hybrid cooking. I have a nice long list of authors here, but Amit and Ariel are going to be presenting.
Thank you. So I'm Amit, and I will present the introduction to this work, and Ariel will continue with the technical details. This work was done together with Moran, Mizrahi, Amos, Golan, Rotem, Gruber, and Lachnise, who unfortunately couldn't be here today. So let me start with the context. Hybrid design, or hybrid making, is the territory where we integrate computational making within a broader cultural and historical making context. We are not seeking ways to automate or replace the tradition, but to enhance it with new digital capabilities. For example, in the last several years, we explored a number of hybrid territories. Hybrid reassemblage, in the left, is a collection of broken ceramic artifacts that were restored using digital procedures and 3D printing. Or, in the right, a collection of smart tools, manual fabrication devices enhanced with digital agency. In SIGCHI, we presented hybrid bricolage, which is a project considering the use of parametric design tools within traditional embroidery craft. The hybrid practice was previously discussed widely within HCI and design community, and I'm not going to discuss it further here. For more articulated motivation on its importance for design, please check the related work. But in this current project, what we did is to simply apply the hybrid thinking and hybrid practice on cooking. In this figure, you can see at the top a laser-cut Quaker, a CNC sweet potato, a complex soup that involves several different technologies. We will present it later, and a dessert using laser to heat surfaces of food mediums. Now, looking at the related work from the last several years, we see that digital machine getting a central place in the vision of tomorrow's kitchen. For example, the project that you can see here, Cornucopia, is a concept design of futuristic digital machine that utilize different aspects of cooking, mixing ingredients, 3D printing them to model complex edible shapes, and so on. We also conceptualize a recipe that works as a controlling algorithm. For example, an algorithm for a lasagna, fully fabricated with these devices based on a parametric design. Now, while Cornucopia was only a concept design developed 8 years ago, recently we start to witness similar ideas getting closer to market. There are a new line of 3D food printers. Every month or two you see a new machine doing something with edible materials, or a line of robotic chefs machine that can imitate and replace human cook in the kitchen. Considering the hybrid practice, in this current work, we are not seeking ways to replace human creativity with digital agency, but to give chefs new computational tools. Doing so, we constructed a hybrid kitchen, featuring both traditional tools and digital fabrication devices, and a team with a professional chef, a chemist who is also a cook, designers, and computer scientists. And we came up with a hybrid cooking stream, a suggestion for a hybrid process mixing both manual mise en place, cooking and plating, together with 3D scanning, generative model for shapes, and digital production, that together can come can accomplish an interesting hybrid dish. The main quality the digital tool can add to cooking is the ability to apply computational design capabilities in order to personalize recipes. This can happen if we think of a recipe as an algorithm with certain degrees of freedom. For example, in this figure, we think about a sweet potato, a filled sweet potato with different cavities. The volume of the cavity and the decision on what exact filling we will use in each cavity is something that the algorithm can help us to set. And here is an example of a filled sweet potato with a potato plug with some filling. Okay, so we believe that computers can be especially useful in the kitchen in order to do two things. One, to determine the quantity of ingredients in a dish. Second, and even more important, to determine the distribution of these ingredients and how it impacts texture, construction, and aesthetic of food. In order to explore that, we did two things in this paper. First, we selectively apply or remove ingredients using 3D printing and milling. Second, selectively heat food surfaces with laser. Each of these methods, we develop an exemplifying recipe that Ariel will present soon. But first of all, he will take us deeply into the technical details of the tool that we use in the kitchen.
Hello. So here you can see our kitchen, and among our tools we have a 3D printer printing tofu and methyl cellulose paste, a method borrowed from the molecular gastronomy, a laser cutter cutting nori seaweed in this case, and a 3D scanner scanning a potato, sweet potato. Here's a milling machine milling it. Now, we decided to demonstrate the first method of programmable structure and composition by applying it on a soup. Here you can see the implementation of a coral reef style on a soup using digital procedures. And on the left side, you can see we present a virtual pattern that defines the required style. In the middle, we can see various toppings, soup toppings. On the top, a CNC milled carrot, a 3D printed tofu reef, and laser cut seaweed that all were digitally generated. On the right, you can see the final dish. So, why soup? Soup presents the potential to rethink the way we created stock by segregating it to several liquids. For example, let's think of on a ramen soup. Ramen soup can be made with a variety of stocks, and it can be seasoned with soy sauce. The exact combination of liquids in this case is obviously subject to personal preferences. After segregating the liquids, we can rethink the way we design the dish using digital procedures. We developed a generative algorithm that resolved the ingredients, volume, and distribution problem in segregated liquids soup. And the inputs for this algorithm are a curve describing the profile of the serving bowl, a number V that represents the total volume of the soup, including the soup itself, the tofu, and the sauces. A number A that represents the desired ratio between the surrounding soup and the total volume of ingredients. A set of numbers that represents the customer's preferences of the liquids combining the soup, and a set of numbers representing the amount of single serving of each of the soup's liquids. The algorithm starts with generating a 2D base pattern determined by a randomly generated Voronoi tessellation, which you can see here under the bowl. Then, considering the bowl's profile and the different liquids' volume requirements, it generates a 3D model that satisfies the constraints. Here are the equations describing the process, but for more formal representation of the algorithm, you can check the paper. Here are examples of various outputs per various constraints. The numbers on the left represent the reef to tofu ratio, and next to them the number of pulls per liquid. And here's a photo of a 3D printed tofu reef with the two segregated sauces. In my opinion, beautiful one. And let's demonstrate how we used all the stages of digital soup making into a hybrid recipe. Of course, with that each of you can later try at home. First of all, I advise you not to try and read the recipe. The font is way too small, but you can easily read it in our website. Just first the colors. The orange stages are digitally procedures, and the gray ones are manually procedures. So using the tofu instant noodle paste manually made on the bottom, we print the tofu structure, the tofu reef structure. Then manually cooking the stocks to assemble the soup, and using laser cutter, we cut nori seaweed as part of the toppings for the soup, and then manually assemble it. And this is our first hybrid recipe, the coral reef soup recipe. Now, let's move to the second method, programmable flavors by selective heating. So what is selective heating? It's the ability to apply different heating profile patterns to eatable matters, eatable mediums. And for example, back in 2009, we experimented with heating the surface of a steak using laser. And actually, there is even a related work from TEI by Fukuchi and Joe. Now, laser cooking patterns, laser cooking happens on food surfaces. Thus, it is perfect when customizing and or personalizing patterns of Maillard reaction. Maillard reaction is the heating / browning reaction occurs on food surfaces in between 120 to 150 Celsius degrees, between amino acids and sugars, and also responsible for many desirable tastes and smells happen when cooking. Obviously, the browning patterns on food surfaces are subject to personal preferences. So here we apply selective heating with laser to fine-tune the Maillard reaction on meringue when making a dessert. And as you probably know, when making meringue, we sometimes brown it with open flame. In this diagram maps the Maillard reaction color as a function of the laser setting. And in a short experiment that we had in the lab, we showed that each color has different flavor, and different people, of course, have different preferences when choosing their preferred flavor or color. So in this dish, we used a modified circle packing algorithm to control the area coverage of the heating profile. While the standard circle packing algorithm uses circles to control the amount of surface coverage, as in the left side of the slide, our modification allows us to replace each circle with a custom shape, and this, of course, adds additional fine-tuning. In the left of the slide, the numbers refer to the ratio between coverage and general area. We used butterflies in various user-controlled sizes to render 3D depth. The big and saturated ones are near, and the small and light are far. And it is very important to note that each of these heating patterns of butterflies correspond with entirely different flavor. Moreover, these patterns impact how the diner experiences the flavors while eating. And here's the complete dish, laser-induced Maillard in meringue applied to a pavlova dessert with the laser setting attached. And generally speaking, patterns determine the ratio between different levels of Maillard, but also the distribution of these brown colors on the surface. We believe that using patterns in heating food has an interesting future potential in digital gastronomy. And this is actually our second hybrid recipe. Again, don't try to read it, but go and read it in our website.
Okay, so let me conclude and discuss future work a little bit. But first, let's summarize. We search for territories where the computer can enhance the traditional kitchen with new capabilities. We use computer-aided design, digital fabrication, and parametric design tool to allow for deep integration of digital procedures in planning and construction of dish. We suggest to build recipes with certain degrees of freedom, such as variation in the amount of ingredients and in the conditions for chemical reaction associated with cooking. Okay, now, if there is one thing we hope you will remember from this talk is our concept to digitize food mediums and its preparation. Traditional cooking deals with analog mediums. You can decide how you want your steak done, but you cannot program the heating pattern to control how much temperature will evolve on each point on the steak surface. We suggest to segregate these mediums or to start thinking about cooking primitives that you can then digitally manipulate. For example, if you think about this green brownish color as an edible medium, we can segregate it to 3 raw ingredients that assemble it. Then we believe that by applying programmable pattern, we can open a new field for modernist cuisine. And we ask how pattern can impact taste, aesthetics, smells, and texture, how we can personalize all of this as a function of constraints on the exact quantity of ingredient and subjective diners' desires, and what will happen when the resolution of digital cooking machines improve and we can start fabricating continuous transactions. We see a potential to link digital gastronomy with programmable meta research in general, such as the one that's done in the Center of Bits and Atoms in MIT, or even the radical atoms concept that we heard a lot in the last several years. But we need to remember this is only a tool in the hand of the chef. We are not replacing the chef. We see a potential, what we would like to have is tools, computers, digital fabrication devices in the kitchen, but also the ability of a chef to decide how to use them, to combine them with analog traditional method and assemble a hybrid dish. Considering the future, we wish to continue investigating hybrid recipes with existing cooking and fabrication methods, to develop new technology to allow for more selective and localized tools in the hand of a chef and better interaction and design tool, to study the diner-chef interaction in real dining experience, and to deploy these developments into a professional kitchen to evaluate them in real cooking conditions. One important thing before we finish is to explain that this is a very complex and big concept, and we cannot answer all the research questions coming from it in one research paper. We are just starting a research in this field, and hopefully we will continue investigating a different aspect of the digital gastronomy and hybrid gastronomy problem. Thank you.
Okay, we definitely have time for questions.
Why did you choose organic patterns like Voronoi cells and images of insects?
We took reference of a coral reef. We decided that we want to design a soup that will look like a coral reef, so we took some image. We look at examples of corals, and then we decided to model them, and the Voronoi distillation just fit perfectly.
But I guess I'm just interested in why you decided coral reef as opposed to inorganic shape.
Okay, so you can think about it. One answer will be it's just a random design decision that we made. But if you think about a chef getting into the restaurant or starting playing with ingredients and then coming with a recipe, there is a concept design behind that. This was my concept design. Okay, I was the chef here, but it's only an example. It's not. Don't take it as the most important thing that we contribute.
Thank you for a very interesting topic. Did you? Your device can make the food taste better, or it's just appearance? You just enjoy looking at appearance?
It's not about the food taste better or not. It's about giving entirely new tools in the hand of a chef and considering what we can do with computers in the kitchen instead of only automating or replacing chef. What a chef can do with computers in the kitchen. So it can taste better and can taste worse. It depends on what exactly you decide to do with that.
Okay, so it's different from the programming the taste and programming the recipe.
Yeah.
Okay.
Hi. I have a question. So when we're thinking about doing something that for eating, especially controlling the flavor, I'm wondering how would you evaluate that? Because everyone has different taste. Like, I think this tastes good, the other people doesn't think it's good. So if you basically cook something with this new fabrication method and you give people, let's say if you want to basically give people to eat it, how would that, what kind of result would tell you if your method is good or not? Does it make sense? Yes.
It's a fantastic question, and we will need to study that in the future.
question. I just want to know if you're going to be opening a restaurant soon.
So the vision is to have a digital gastronomy cooking book in 5 years, and after that, maybe my retirement plan will be to open a restaurant. Thank you.